second chance in the game.
I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come and speak to this clinic. I thank you to Chief Pigskin. What an awesome opportunity to just again share some knowledge. Just biggest hope would be that you guys get something out of this. So for those of you tuning in and listening, again, you'll have the videos and you can rewind and be able to read through or look through some of the stuff that I have on the screen and whatnot. And again, as I'll mention at the end, please always feel free to contact me to get an opportunity to learn more of this information. So my name is Tim Rulo. I'm the head football coach at Chillicothe High School. Coming to you today to speak on from good to great, just 11 steps to create a next level program. And so these are just some things that I've learned on my stops along the way that I think will hopefully help you into helping your program go to the next level. I think the biggest thing is a lot of these things you're probably already doing, and in my mind, hopefully just providing you an opportunity to figure out a way to make things a little bit better, right? A tweak here, a tweak there. You'll see at the bottom of some of these slides, like I just have questions to ponder. These are things I would highly encourage you, maybe after listening to a certain slide or set of slides, and just write down, right? Write down what's a takeaway point. For you and I, we've gone to clinics before. I'm always trying to find that nugget. What's that thing that I can do and take away that's going to allow my program to get better? And hopefully those questions will allow you some opportunities to do that. So let's get started. Again, the first one, and by now all of us are doing it, it's kind of weight room and athletic development, right? This is kind of the thing that we know we're all wanting to do. It maybe was the thing that separated out some teams in the 90s, early 2000s, but by now everyone understands weight room, and we, hashtag the grind, hashtag trust the process, whatever. But we do all these things. But again, there's just a lot of research that proves this is right. There's a great book, if you haven't read it, called Gridiron Dynasties. It literally looked at your top 10, 12 high school football programs in the United States. And one of the key contributing factors to why these programs were great was a consistent workout program. It was funny because they all did things differently, right? Some things did their own. Some guys used the BFS. Some guys used different models. But the idea was that having a consistent program for weightlifting and athletic development, that was an expectation that people would attend and athletes would attend, was huge in the development of that consistency and that winning edge. For me, I think the biggest thing that I've seen in the places that I've gone is that you have to find out ways to increase that intensity in the weight room, right? Some things that we're going to talk through here, we're going to talk through what it looks like to break records. We're going to talk through what it looks like to have finishers, weightlifting competitions, figuring out how to correlate those strength gains with the on-field success. And then finally, you have to sell your kids that you're going to work hard, right? Maybe work harder than everyone else. So, example we do is I like to, in weight rooms that I'm running, we'll always do sets of 11 on any kind of auxiliary. I found that sets of 11, people will always ask, Coach, why are we doing 11? And I say, hey, our opponents are doing 10. We're always going to do one more than our opponent. So just again, providing that opportunity for them to think through, hey, why are we doing this? Are we outworking somebody today? And again, just that mental edge that we're trying to gain. With that, we don't call anything conditioning in our programs. We call it GTME, that's gaining the mental edge. Again, that's just part of the deal that we're just trying to sell our kids, that we're outworking people. For us, one of the ways that we do that is what we do is we call record breakers. This is an idea if you're a BFS guy, you're maybe familiar with this, but again, just a way to celebrate athletes getting stronger. Also, I think it just gives just kind of that instant feedback. Kids like to know that they're getting stronger, that they're getting better. And the way we do this is by choosing a number based on the percentage that's going to show strength increase. So if an athlete's able to complete the record breaker number on that last set, then I allow them to increase their max by 5 pounds. And again, you celebrate this by doing something like, hey, record breaker, give them 1, and we all clap, all right? Or we might say their name, or we can celebrate it. Some people celebrate maybe with a bell being rung, but whatever works for you, but just figuring out a way. And the kids like that feedback. They like being able to celebrate that they've broken a record, that they've been able to do that, and that's huge. Here's an example of that. So again, you can just see at the bottom of the screen, I've just captured what a workout would look like for bench press. Here, 3 sets of 3 at 90%. Set 3 is as many as possible. So again, the idea is if they can get 6 reps on that last set, man, we're going to celebrate that. We'll feel that they broke the record, that they've gotten stronger now, and they can move their max up by 5 pounds. We like to keep our maxes visible. Kids really like to be able to go cross out their old max and write their new one. They really like that, that sense that they get from being able to do that. Just I don't know if that physical response they get to be able to increase their maxes. I also think it's important to just post everything because I think kids like to be able to compare, right? They like to see where things are. And again, so whatever program you're using, you've got opportunities then to show, hey, you're getting stronger, your athletes are getting stronger. Again, I think another thing is to having some kind of daily, weekly record board. I think these are huge motivators. When I haven't used these, I've noticed that just the intensity just isn't the same in the weight room. Again, they don't have to be really fancy. I mean, some people have really fancy ones, but anytime that you're posting records in the weight room, man, people want to break those records, right? They want to break those. They want to see their name up on those boards. And so again, that's huge. So you can see, I'm going to give you some examples here. We've done it different ways. I've done it by weight class, by individuals, and this is again a daily thing, something that can be changed because again, that's important. Kids want to be able to see their names up there, and also we've done it by by class, right? Where hey, how many records did this class break, and we'll compete against different hours. And again, that allows kind of buy-in from all athletes because sometimes those record boards are only going to celebrate the strongest guys or gals. But again, the idea is if you can say, hey, you helped the class out by, you weren't lifting as much, but you broke your record, we can celebrate that too. So here's an example of one. This, again, man, this is literally pieced together, bought the record board at Walmart. That's electrical tape, creating that chart. I had 2 girls divisions based on weight, and then you can see the 5 weight divisions for the boys. This is at a smaller school. And so again, and the kids love getting their names on there, right? They'd walk in the weight room, they'd look up at that board, they'd want to be like, hey, I'm going to go get that today in the clean, or I'm going to go get that in the bench press. And so they really enjoyed that. And that was a fun battle for those guys to be able to compete and do that. On the flip side, you can see we had just another board that was bought, placed up on the wall. This was records broken this week by hour, right? And let the classes compete against themselves a little bit there. And again, that was a way just to maybe incorporate everyone, but allowed them to be able to help out. And again, another interesting thing is kids love being able to write on the whiteboard. Right, for my teachers out there who've had kids write on the whiteboard, they love it. They love being able to write their name or being able to put a tick mark. And that, again, they just like that feedback that they were able to do that. And so, again, maybe a simple thing, but again, how can you increase the intensity in your weight room? How can you get kids working hard for an entire off season, right, that's going to do something a little bit more than your opponents and the people you're playing? Some other things, right, some kind of finish or exit exercise. It says it's done at the end of the workout. I've actually changed that up now over time. Sometimes I'll do it just to shock kids. I'll do it at the beginning. Right after the warm-up, we'll go right into the finisher. And then we'll work out after that just to see how they handle it. But again, a lot of these, right, you can sit there and figure out and see and look at, or maybe you've heard of. Ones that people always ask me that I find are fun is your running of the bulls. So that's a game of tag that we play. It's just a great way. We just literally set up 2 bases in the corner of a gymnasium, and depending on the size, I've gone as big as 50 kids, depending on the size of the gymnasium as well, but you split about half and half in each base, and then you pick out about 3 or 4 guys that will stand in the basketball circle in the middle, and then, man, when we blow the whistle, those young people have to run from base to base without being touched. And so there's a lot of keeping your head on a swivel, a lot of the ability just to see who moves well, who's athletic. There's some strategy involved in there too. And when those people get touched, they come and stand over the side next to me. Normally they'll do some kind of exercise, maybe some push-ups or something. And then round 2, I'll blow the whistle, and now the people have to run into a base. The people in the middle, they run around and try to tag people. But it's just a fun way. Kids will be sweating after that. They'll literally be sweating. It's a great way to get in shape and have some fun. So again, a lot of those, you've probably seen before or heard before. If you have any other questions, you can always get a hold of me and I can give you more information. But just great ways to increase that intensity by doing some type of finisher. Just something that's going to allow those kids to feel they've got a good burn during a workout. The next thing we want to talk about is this idea of character education. I think if you want to take your program to the next level, you got to figure out how to create and manipulate the character of your athletes, right? You've got to increase that, right? Because we want kids that we can trust with the ball in their hand late in games. And again, that it might just seem like a small step, but the character education is huge. I think, and we could talk about this for a long time, but I think the key is you have to figure out, what are you looking for here? Are you looking for like just a component or a foundational approach in your character education? A lot of times what I've seen with coaches is something happens and they feel like they need to talk about it, right? So there's a theft in the locker room, and now we're going to talk about honesty. But in my mind, I would look for more of a foundational approach, right? Trying to say, hey, what's the foundation of our program? What are we going to be about? And we're going to talk about this all the time. Some people do pillars, some people do pyramids, whatever, but whatever works for you and your program, but these needs to be things you're just discussing all the time. You never can stop developing the character, the culture. That's kind of a new phrase that gets used a lot. You can never stop discussing that. Something has to happen all the time. I think another question that I would highly encourage is, why do players play on your team? I think one of the most freeing things that I ever came across and understood was, players probably don't love football as much as I do. And when I came to grips with that, it made me relax a little bit. I didn't need to get as frustrated when they weren't showing up to weightlifting like I wanted them to, or they missed a day at camp for vacation that didn't seem important to me. They weren't studying the scouting reports like I thought. I understood, hey, you know what, they don't love football as much as I do. Let's figure out, why are they playing? What is the reason for being on this team? And let's try to meet them there. With that, I think you need to help build quality relationships with your players. I always tell athletes, and again, this is something I've just gathered from guys like Joe Ehrman, but literally the most important part of practice is the conversations you have in the locker room, on the way to the field, during a water break, on the way back to the locker room after a practice. Those 5 minutes just saying, hey, how are things going? How's school? How's your parents? How's your sisters? How's your grandparents? That's huge. That ability to build that relationship just allows there to be more of a moldable spirit for those young people that allows you really to coach them up well. Again, for me, football is a tool. It's a tool to be used to make an impact in lives beyond the field, and I think that's important. I'm not saying everyone has to buy into that philosophy, but again, I think we all can recognize that football has made a difference in our life. That's probably why we're coaching it. And so the more that we can figure out how to use this platform in a positive way, the better. To me, I think it's important that you have a weekly character plan. I think football is really conducive to that. I've done this in other sports, basketball, track, that I've coached, but man, football is by far the most conducive. And that's simply because you have such a regulated schedule with kind of, Monday through Thursday, there's some type of practice. There might be a JV game or a lower level game, but Friday there's going to be a varsity game, most likely, maybe Saturday, depending on when you're playing, but then we're going to roll back around and do it again. And so there you can see it on the screen, but on Monday I'm introducing this kind of theme, the new theme that we're going to discuss. And again, typically I'm looking for some type of uniformity there, or we're going to talk about certain things that are already kind of set up ahead of time, but we're going to have a discussion about that, maybe a definition of what that looks like. Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to have a quote of the day. We're going to highlight examples of that in practice. We're going to discuss the theme during water breaks. I found it's huge to have coaches or seniors spotlight players that are demonstrating those qualities that we're looking for. I think that's huge. Again, that spotlight theory that we're going to just, see it. We're going to, express it, hey, that we saw it, and hopefully by expressing it and recognizing it, we're going to get more people doing it. Thursday, we're going to have some type of character meeting before our team dinner. So we do a team dinner. I think those are huge. I think that's another great way just to develop team camaraderie and to develop those relationships with players. But we're going to have some type of character meeting. It doesn't need to be long. You can break it up. I've done it where I've done it with the whole team, right? When I had a team of 30 to 40, and I've broken it up into groups of, maybe into two groups, younger and older guys. I've broken it by grade. I've done it different ways, but again, having some type, it's short, talking 15 minutes. There's material out there that different companies offer, but finding some way to provide just a discussion about that topic as kind of a culmination of the week is huge. On Friday, we're going to definitely talk about that theme in the game in the pregame meeting that I'm going to have with our players. And on Saturday or Sunday, whenever you maybe practice with your team again, there's going to be a review. How do we do with that, right? Just like you're going to review offense and defense and in your special teams, you need to make sure how do we do with that character theme or this word that we were working on. So again, hopefully that's something you can figure out, and you can see the question down there at the bottom. But again, just a huge piece, man, can make the difference, man, between winning and losing, make the difference between off the field issues and not having those, and just another step to create a next level program. The next one is leadership training. Again, during losing seasons, I was really frustrated at the lack of leadership and buy-in from senior classes. It really bothered me. I just couldn't figure out why we weren't on the same page. And I realized I had to figure out a way to maximize senior or potential leaders and help train them. And that's huge. Leadership training was the answer. There's a lot of different ways to do this. I started off, I remember my first year, literally just having one meeting with seniors, and we just talked about the season. And from there, progressed it to literally monthly meetings for the seniors. And then finally, I've even progressed to monthly meetings with the seniors, and then I have meetings with up and coming leaders basically before school. But no matter what, I feel like you have to figure out a way to meet with those guys to set what are your expectations for the upcoming season, what are my expectations, how do leaders handle these kind of situations that we know they're going to come up and we're going to see this season. This is just a missing link, I think, for some programs. And I just would encourage you, if you're not doing anything, start doing something. But there are people that want to figure out how to be a leader, and man, we got to figure out a way to train that up. Just like we tell them on how to run plays, how to throw a ball, catch a ball, how do we train up in the weight room, you got to figure out how to help kids become leaders, and that's just so huge. Some things that, again, we allow the seniors or the leaders to set the goals for the season. I'm a big believer in that, just that autonomy piece to allow them to figure out, hey, this is what I want out of that season. I mean, we guide them. I think the other thing is you have to allow them opportunities to practice being a leader. That is such a key component. I think a lot of times seniors naturally think, hey, now I'm at the front of the line, right? I'm going to do the drill. I'm going to lead this, but they don't know what that looks like. They've never been given opportunities to practice that and finding ways to help them practice it, whether that's in the weight room, whether that's getting breakdowns with the team, whatever, right? Put them in charge of things. And there's a lot of different ideas out there on how you can do that. But again, figuring out ways to help promote them and give them opportunities to lead so they can practice a little bit is huge before that season starts. The next one, we kind of mentioned this before too, with this idea of culture, is developing some kind of development of a team identity. That's a big thing. What do you want your team to all be about? And what are the pillars and the foundation of your program? There's a great quote by Thomas Kempis, right? The higher or the loftier the building, the deeper the foundation must be laid. And I think that's so key. I think a lot of times coaches can sit around and be like, hey, we want to be tough. We want to be physical. We want to be smash mouth. We want to be air raid. We want to be all these things. But a lot of times I always wonder, what do your players really think? What do they want this program to be about? And I think it's a really important question sometimes that we need to be willing to ask, like, hey, what do you guys think are the foundation of the pillars of our program? What do we want to be about? And I think the more that we can figure out ways to just incorporate those players with those coaches and figure that out, it's huge. For us, I've used this as a chant before games, right? It's kind of a refocusing tool. It just kind of reminds us what we're all about. But no matter what, the more that you can figure out, hey, this is what we're going to be about, and that you can remind kids about. Because typically, when you talk even about rules, I normally like to have these identities, pillars, or these expectations, because that way you can sit there and say, hey, right, is your action or your activity, the things that you're doing, how's that corresponding or how's that relating to our expectations or our rules on this team? Because if they're not, and then there's a problem, right? Now we have an issue that we want to make sure we discuss. So again, this would be a great conversation piece at your next coaches meeting, or next time maybe you see one of your players, or you text a player, just ask them, man, what do you think we're all about? All right, and I think you'll be surprised and just have some great conversation through some of those questions. I think the next thing, and again, not to steal from some people here, but you got to get the right people on the bus. Now, there are two great books. Good to Great is a great book. It's a business model book by Jim Collins. And then you have The Energy Bus by John Corden. So in both those books, they mention buses. But again, this is a great analogy. You have to figure out how to get the right people on the bus. For my coaches out there, number one, you got to get your family on board with the coaching lifestyle. I think that's huge. As I see so many coaches that have to get out of coaching because their families aren't on the bus, and that just breaks my heart, right? And so that's huge. I think the other thing is I try to express to coaches is, it is so important that your players see you living it out, right? We talk about character education, we talk about leadership, but you and I know, especially I would encourage with the athletes we see today, is they want to see us living this out. They don't want to hear us just talking about it, right? They can Google that, right? They can look that up on their phones, but they want to see us living it out, and I think that's really huge. And so something I would just encourage is invite your family around, right? Invite your family around, because that might be the only example that your athletes have of seeing a father, right? A quality father or a quality husband, right? The way you interact with your kids when they come to practice, the way you interact with your wife when she comes to practice. So just something to think about there. I think it also will help get your family more on board if they're around more, but just some thoughts there. The other thing is you need to find quality staff who buy into your coaching philosophy. I've had a lot of different coaches that have worked for me over the years. I've worked for different head coaches, but that's huge. Man, if you just have to make sure that you're getting the right people on board that buy into what you're about, right? They can have pride for the school. They can love what you want to do offensively or defensively, but again, into your coaching philosophy, right? What are you all about? And man, that they buy into that, and they're willing to match you in your level of work. I think sometimes we know this is limited by teaching positions from my high school coaches out there. I'm a big believer of using volunteers. I've definitely used local colleges or community members if I found the right ones. But again, a lot of times we're going to meet, we're going to talk, we're going to discuss. I'm going to share with them my philosophy. There's some points that I normally on my expectation list, and I'm going to show them and say, hey, are you okay with this? Do you understand that this is what we're going to be about? My biggest thing is you can never have too many quality coaches, and quality is the key word there. But to me, man, let's have more, right? Because the more we can break up practice and allow individual work to be done, the better it's going to be. I'm not a big fan of standing around at practice. Nobody wants to stand around at practice. We don't play football to stand around. Nobody wants to just be standing in helmet and shoulder pads for long periods of time without activity. And so again, man, get quality coaches, figure out, empower that quality coach to go coach something, and then man, let them go do it. And you're going to get really help get those right people on the bus. The other thing I would encourage you need to pour into coaching families. This was a big one for me, figuring out ways to really kind of get those families all on board and working together and just hanging out and just building some community there. You know, again, for us, we've done this with coaches' barbecues. Like we'll have a preseason barbecue, even a postseason meal together. We've done different things even during the season. And I'm not talking just about coaches getting together after a game on a Friday night. I mean, I think that's good too, but I think providing family-friendly opportunities. Other ones that I've done would be invite families to all come to the locker room after practice on Tuesdays and share a meal together. I've done that one. I've had families kind of help with inventory. So like if there's a day that we have to inventory things before the season or at the end of the season, I've just said, coaches, hey, man, this is a great opportunity if you want. If you can convince your kids to come on down and have some fun counting knee pads or running around, they can easily do that, right? It's a pretty family-friendly environment. So those are just different things. But ultimately, man, the more you can pour into those coaching families, the more you can pour in to your staff, all right? And again, as being a head coach specifically, that's part of the deal. And the more you're going to see kind of some of that great feedback that you're getting at the end of the season, the more that desire for, hey, now I don't feel like I'm leaving my family to be here. My family wants me to go. They're excited when I go up to the office or spend time with the program. I think the biggest thing, just to kind of finish this up, please understand getting the right people on the bus is a process. It can take years, very realistically, it can take years. And I know at one job, it literally took almost 3 or 4 years to get the right people on the bus and rearrange them in the right spots as well. Because again, you have to figure out what their strengths are of your assistant coaches. And so, and I know it's funny because you maybe wanted to be a head coach, you're excited about the X's and O's, et cetera, but and a lot of times as the head coach, is kind of driving that bus, it's much more about managing people and learning how to equip them, how to empower them to go out and do their job really well in whatever seat they have on that bus. So some great questions for you here to look at with your staff. Don't be afraid to pause the video, write some of these down, because again, these are going to be huge, especially in the off season as you're trying to figure out, do I have the right people in the right places? Do I need to get more people? And I know it's always challenging. Is there anyone that needs to come off the bus? And those are hard conversations. If I can give you one piece of advice there, and I have had to do this, sadly, document what you're doing. I'm a big fan of evaluating coaches. I remember one coach telling me, Coach, I want to be evaluated more. I need to be evaluated more. And I thought that was interesting. And so again, the more you can evaluate your coaches more often, I try to do it 3 times a year. Now I evaluate at basically the end of the season, at the end of the school year, and at the end of the summer. And it's all on one document that I have. But the more that you can evaluate your coaches, then again, you have some documentation of what's needed, but at the same time, you can help in their progression and them getting better as a coach. And if for some reason you ever would need to remove a coach, you usually have some things like, hey, here's some things I had you work on. You didn't work on those. We're going to have to find a different role for you, or possibly just not be on the same staff anymore. So difficult thing, but man, so important. That next level, that elite level program has those great staffs. And there's just that continuity of the staff. The staffs have been there for a long time. So man, there is a process to this. Stay patient with it. Keep working hard. But again, get the right people on the bus to take your program to the next level. The next thing, and I think sometimes it's overlooked, and again, if you're moving to a new school or you're at a new school, having traditions. Guys, they're just something really important about traditions. I'm a history guy. I started off as a social studies teacher, and I just always loved, as I studied other cultures, how many ceremonies they had to promote big events in their life, right? And so, whether that historically, if you're talking about like they would give like a ring, right? Or they'd give a robe or a certain coat. You think about like knights and being knighted, but there was some kind of ceremony. And we don't do a lot of that anymore. Maybe the driver's license, but there just really isn't that type of ceremonial, situation or tradition that is there that you see a lot. And so because of that, I think it's important that we've lost that a little, and trying to figure out ways to do that in football are huge. Again, I think also by having those traditions, it can provide them something to look forward to. Like I literally have had players say, Coach, there were times that I didn't want to keep playing, but I wanted to get to that because I was looking forward to that tradition or looking forward to doing that in the off season or whatever. And also I think the consistency of it provides some comfort. Because again, don't have a tradition that you only do 1 year and you don't do it the next year, right? I mean, you got to keep going with that. They can be really small things. For me, I have pregame routine because if you've ever coached with me or been around me, like I literally have a pregame routine that is probably down to the minute, and I read through it every Thursday or the day before every game, and literally the last thing we'll have is like 7 o'clock, and you know what? We're going to beat the Trojans, right? And that's something that my high school coach did. It provided me a lot of comfort when I was playing many, many years ago, and I still do it to this day. And it's one of those that I didn't think was a big deal until literally I had a player text me, and he said, Coach, when you did that before that game, I knew everything was going to be okay. And I knew right then and there that was a good idea. And just something like that and the consistency of it means a lot. Team meals, again, I mentioned this before. I think team meals are huge. I don't think it has to be anything extravagant. I don't think it has to be anything over the top or expensive. But I think just having team meals, providing time for kids to connect together outside of the game of football, connect with coaches outside of the game of football, huge. And I think it provides so much in terms of, man, just that relationship piece. I care about you beyond football. I call that, that transformational piece that is so important in coaching. I think also what to do after wins. I've been in schools where we rang a bell. I've been in schools where we had a chant. I've been in schools where we sing the school fight song. I've been in schools where they would run over to the student section and sing the alma mater or do a chant with them. Whatever it is, right? But that's, again, such an important piece because, again, people look forward to that. And so, again, they don't have to be big, but, again, just what are your traditions that, man, people look forward to and get excited about doing? They can be really big things, though, and I've got some examples here. Blue was a group that we started, and I can give you a lot more information about that, but it was just a special football fraternity that we started at our school, one of the schools that really caught hold. That it was a big deal. Like there was an induction ceremony into it. It was a big deal. We didn't talk about it to anyone else. And so the kids really liked that elite group that we would form just for special players. Teacher Appreciation Night is always a huge hit. Any way that we can honor those teachers. We invite the teachers to the team dinner. We let them wear their jerseys or put their jerseys up in their classrooms. They love that. So we also do a Warrior Elite Club meal. And that could be anything. It could be whatever your mascot is. But with that, basically we honor the kids who've gone above and beyond in terms of their commitment during the summer, right? So let's say maybe they made it to 100% of the activities or whatever you set as the standard, but just a way to honor those guys. And again, something that they can reach for, something they can be excited about. Link in My Pocket, that's a fun one that we've done. It's a poem that we give to the seniors, just talking about how that they're going to be, a football player for this program for life, right? Even after they're done playing, they're always going to be able to come back and be a part of that. Another one is a traveling trophy. We had one that was a big deal, one of our rivals. That was huge. People have, and maybe it's not a trophy, but a sign or a board or a bell or whatever. But again, that's a huge deal. And I know communities that literally, it can shut the town down on a Friday night because they have that. For me, I was a part of when we started the traveling trophy. It was not originally a trophy that we had, but we started it. So whatever works for you, but getting those things started can become big deals. Now again, you'll have to be at a place for a while, right, to get this really rolling. But those can be big and be a lot of fun for kids and for communities. Another one that we can do is a father-son jersey night. This is a huge one. Got this idea from other people, but we can do a ceremony before senior night with our seniors and their dads or their father figures in their life, where those father figures come in and express their love, pride, and admiration for their sons or for those special young men in their life. They hand them their jersey. It's an amazing event. Again, please feel free to contact me. I can give you more information about that. But it's an awesome event that we film and we give it as a gift to our players on senior night. But just a huge way just to really connect and make something deeper. And again, that's a big deal. But again, that's a way to create a program and take it to the next level. I think another thing here, and I've got some pictures here that I'm going to show you, but again, getting more playing experience in the season is huge. Trying to figure out ways to do that. I know that can be a real challenge because, again, we don't always want to have to sit there and just keep rebuilding, right? There's this idea of reloading, and how do we do that? I got this series chart idea years ago from a Hall of Fame coach. For me, it's revolutionized how we think about the game. And I think it's also a great way to get that second string or younger players in the game at a low cost, low risk. The upside is huge for it. You get much more player buy-in, get a lot more focus in games and practice. You're going to get practice reps for the second string and practice much easier now, and more happy players and parents. So let me just get to this. I'm going to show it to you. So this is an example of one. So this is a document. It's on Google Drive now. Now we're using technology that way that coaches are filling out. We ask coaches to have a preliminary one set up for Monday that we share with the kids on the scouting reports. But basically, you can see all the positions there on the left-hand column. You see offense and defense. Series 1 would be our starters, right? So those are our top 11 guys. They're our starters. And as you can see, we got names both at the top and the bottom. Some of them are playing both ways for us. Series 2 is the next time that we have the ball, or the next time we're on defense. And you can see that we're going to make some changes there, right? So if you're looking at the screen, you can see we're bringing in a new left tackle, a new right guard. My left tackle is moving to right tackle. And then I've got a couple new running backs, wide receivers coming in, right? You might say, well, gosh, Coach, that's a lot of guys coming in. But again, these guys are second string guys that need a little bit of playing time, right? They need to come in. Also, some of these guys are playing both ways, so we need to make sure that we are allowing those guys a little bit of a breather. Series 3, you can see we got some guys basically coming back. The starters are coming back in now, right? So that's why you see some names there. And again, I've got a new fullback coming in and a new quarterback who's getting a little bit of reps there. And you see Series 4. Same thing on defense. So again, when we get to Series 4, we'll go back to Series 1. So what's great about this is we'll share this on Monday, right? And then this is how we run practice. So instead of like, hey, second team, I need you to come up and run some plays on offense, literally after X number of plays, I'll call it, all right, Series 2, you're up next. And those guys are ready. All right, those guys are ready. They're ready to run on because they want to show that, hey, they deserve to be on the field. Then I'll go Series 3 after a couple minutes, and then Series 4, and then we'll cycle back to Series 1. And normally during a practice, I get through all 4 series. And maybe on a Thursday practice, I'll get through all 4 and plus a little extra. But again, it's there and it provides it. During the game then is the exact same way, right? The guys are already used to working with each other. They already know it. People always ask me, well, do you have to go by this? Well, no. I mean, you're the coach. I literally, as the offensive coordinator, will say, all right, hey, we're going Series 1. And then maybe all of a sudden there's a turnover. We got the ball. We need to get a score. I'll say, hey, we're going Series 1 again, right? We're going Series 1 again. Heck, I've been losing before, and I've ran Series 1 the whole time. It doesn't matter. But the idea is it's there, and normally, in most games, there's a flow of the game that we just run Series 1, 2, 3, 4, Series 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see the columns there. Then on the far right, you have control. That is, people always ask about that. That's when the game is in control or out of control, right? So basically, when that turbo clock's happening or when the game is basically in or out of control to a point where it's just, the final decision has already been made, that's when we put these guys in. These are going to be seniors, maybe that don't start or don't play a lot, or it's going to be some of those young guys that are really hungry to get a chance. And so you can see that there, and you can see some names that are there for those guys. Again, this is a great little chart to have. It allows us a lot of opportunities, and the best part is the subbing is taken out of your hands. So instead of having this large depth chart where you're having to worry about, it's all right here, I literally will even have a coach who that's their job. They're just the offense or defensive series chart guys, so they're the ones. And they'll ask me over the headset, hey, Coach, what series do we want? And some of the coaches might pipe in, hey, I want Series 2, I want Series 1. One of us, in this case myself, will make the decision, and we'll go ahead with it. Guys, great, easy for practices. I'll take this little screenshot, and I'll push it out on right next to our practice scripts. So like our practice script page, we'll have the series chart and the rest of the practice script for the play, so they can just see it right there, so they know, right? They know, and we can handle it. But guys, easy way, a little bit of work on the front end, allows for a huge carryover. Again, getting more players experience in the season. That way you're not having to rebuild every year. You can instead reload. And guys, I've done this at a school when I've only had maybe 30 to 35 guys in the entire team. I've done this at school where we've had 90. So it definitely can work and work in your favor. Next one, guys, and again, I hear different things on this, but to figure out how to grade film and then have strategic, what I call A.O.I.S, to help you find something specific to work on. I think great programs focus on themselves, not their opponents, right? Great programs have figured out ways to say, what do we need to do to get better, right? I remember when I was young, man, I would literally be changing defensive fronts every week because I was so worried about stopping the team we were about to play, right? Or I was trying to figure out how to put in 3 or 4 new plays each week because I was trying to figure out how do we need to score because of what their defense is going to do. Instead, I've learned that, man, I want to make sure that we get better, right? And again, I have that process versus outcome-based idea, right? To me, it's just, again, developing this standard, this expectation that this is how we're playing football, these are the things we're working on, instead of sitting there saying, did we win or lose, right? I think eventually the wins will come by doing it that way. So again, I trust that in what's going on there. The big thing there is grade sheets. So we grade. I'm going to show you an example of a grade sheet that I use, but I let my coaches kind of have their own standard how they do it, but I do ask that my coaches grade at least 20 plays from the Friday night game. I ask that at least 10 of them are in the first half and 10 are in the second half to see if our kids got better. Those coaches do need to turn that into me, right? They can share it with me on Google Drive. I've got some guys who just tab it all along the bottom. Whatever works for them. This is the one thing that I still am pencil and paper in, and I'll show you how I do it. But whatever works, I want a physical copy handed out to the kid or to the player so that they can look through it together when they're watching film. I think this also organizes film watching, so there really can be some really specific things and, hey, here's how these plays looked for us. Again, coaches can modify the sheets to fit their position, and again, it really helps that film time with the players. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to this. So this is our example of how I grade quarterbacks specifically. You can see that I write what week it was, who the opponent was, the player's name, the position is quarterback. You can see the column for huddle play. So I print this out. I'll write huddle play. I was play 5, and then there's my 4 categories. It's kind of a binary system. They get 1s or 0s. Every once in a while, I might give them a 0.5. You can kind of see the grading descriptions over there on the side. But then I just total up the number of plays, right? And I just come up with a grade out of 1, and then it just gives me a grade out of a 4.0 scale, which again, I like that. I think kids, they understand what a 4.0 scale is. They understand, hey, did I get a 3, 3.0? Did I get a 3.1? Did I get a 2.0? Man, I got a 1.5. I can see why we didn't play very well, right? So whatever works, but that's just a great way. If I need to, like for a quarterback, he might easily have over 40 plays. I'll just have another sheet that I'll attach. But again, this doesn't have to be the format. I have coaches do differently, different columns. But again, just something that each coach has that they can present to their players. If it's something small, maybe it doesn't seem that important, but guys, it's huge, and the dividends eventually will be really well worth it. Weekly A.O.I.S. So A.O.I.S, areas of improvement and strengths. Grading film gives us specific things to work on in practice. It also gives practice a purpose to individual time. I think, so what I've done, or what kind of developed over time, is developing a chart, right, that allows us to improve. And so here's an example of a chart. I'm sure this is kind of small on your screen. Again, I can send you an example of this. This is, again, doing this for a decade now, kind of where we've gone with it. But we will have what we call A.O.I.S for each week. And again, this is another Google Drive that after the coaches have watched film, they will fill in. And as you can see here, right, we'll go to cornerbacks areas of improvement. And so their areas of improvement, these are the things that they need to work on. And now, next level, what we've done here is we've added, right, and I got this idea from a coach who had liked my chart and added it, and so I just took it as well. Drills needed to address these areas. So what drills do they need to do that are going to allow that to occur? Then, what were them strengths? I think it's important that you highlight strengths for players. Again, we can hit them up a lot with things that they're doing poorly, but again, allowing them to talk about what they're doing well, and again, what are some drills needed to refine or improve those strengths even more. And you can see we've got it for each position. We got it for offense, defense, special forces. I've even had players give input on this, like after a grading film after a Friday night game, I say, hey, what do you think? What do you think we need to work on? All right, give me 1 or 2 things that you need to work on. Or maybe I'll text them later over the weekend just to check in with them. But I think that's really huge. Or even what drills do you want to do? I think it's huge. And again, I pass this out, so we print out this sheet, all right, and we give it to the players to look at on Monday morning or Monday when we meet with them. And so that's huge because, again, they can see that, and they can see that they're getting better at those things. And that's the thing that is just a huge benefit that you're going to do each week. I think another huge thing is I take this and I put this on the back of every practice schedule. So this document here, They're going to see it every time on the back of every practice schedule, so coaches then can look at it. Because I don't know about you, but early on, I definitely in my coaching career, there were times that I was just frustrated. I had to grade all this. I had some discipline problems, whatever. I'd come out to practice. I look at the practice schedule and be like, gosh, what are we supposed to work on, right? And I've seen that even with myself now after doing it for a while, right? As a head coach, I've had 30 things that I need to do with parents that I need to call, equipment I got to check out, whatever. And now I'm like, what do I need to do, right, for practice? What do I need to do for my individual time? And so it's sitting right there. The drills are already right there. I just flip over that paper. I can look and I can remind it, okay, yeah, that's what I need to do during individual time. So again, just that leg work. I expect all coaches to have this done by Monday morning. That leg work, right, in just a little bit before the week can pay huge dividends for how you run practices and just having a little bit sharper practice than on Tuesdays and Wednesdays when you're doing that install stuff. So huge. Again, takes a little bit of work, but man, huge in my mind in going from creating a next level program. All right. Next one is empowering assistant coaches. The thing that I found, and again, it's depending, but when you're trying to build and get the right people on the bus, you're going to have coaches who want to have some kind of freedom or power to be empowered to have input in the program. And again, that's a correct balance as a head coach. You've got to figure that out. You got to figure out how much do you give, right? You don't ever want to be handcuffed or held hostage by your own assistant coaches. But again, you want to at the same time provide them that autonomy, provide them that freedom that they can go out and be able to get better and improve. I think to me, one of the ways that I do it, I love getting them in charge of things. I think that's a great practice for them, right? So that same idea we tell with our seniors, our leaders, you let them practice that leadership. One of the things that I do is each coach is in charge of setting up their own team social. So we try to do team socials in the off season, basically starting in December and running through July. And depending on the staff, it doesn't have to be every month, but we just set that up, or sometimes I'll have two coaches in charge of each, depending on how large my staff is. But they have to present the basic skills, or they have to be able to the basic information for that team social, right? They have to set it up and organize it, and then I just show up, right? And I hang out, and they're in charge of it, and it's great, and that's huge. Another one is we allow coaches to present basic skills and drills of their position to the entire staff at a coaches meeting. What I've done, I've gone so far to this, is now that they have to create their own instructional video. So I have them produce it on Huddle. Basically, they have to create the slides, and they have to record the drills and talk over it, or they'll talk over it when they present it to us. And that's a lot of fun. And actually, I end up using these for my instructional videos for my youth programs. It's just a great way. I said, hey, look, here's our wide receiver coach. Coach Smith here, he's doing his thing. He's doing a great job. And then we will then present that to our younger youth programs. The final thing is to allow coaches to give their own thoughts on the state of the program. We do a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. All right, it's kind of a business model idea, but we will we'll just go around and we'll say, all right, coach, what do you think the strengths of this team are right now? What do you think our weaknesses are? What are some opportunities? And what are some threats? Oddly enough, I will also do the same thing with seniors right before the season. And I love looking at the two lists, right? Looking at what the coaches said and looking at what the seniors said. And you'll be surprised because a lot of times they're pretty similar. And so again, it's interesting just how everyone's on the same page. But just being able to voice those concerns. And also I try to encourage my coaches, don't give me a concern without telling me a way that you think we can fix it, right? It's real easy to sit there and just start throwing stones. But I want to know, hey, what do we need to do, right? What do we need to make sure we can do to fix this concern? But again, just a great way to empower those assistant coaches to provide them a voice. And lastly, again, just the idea of parent and community involvement, right? I always want to increase the numbers on the team. I feel like, if we believe in our products, if we believe football and what we're doing through football is a good thing, right? Then I want to get as many players out to be with us from that time, from 3 o'clock to 5:30, 6 o'clock every day. To do this, I think it's important to get parents on board. I think the closer you can get the parents, the more hopefully some of their concerns about concussions and everything else and injuries and in time can kind of just melt away because, again, you've gotten those parents on board. I think parents also can be your biggest ambassadors or deterrents in the community, right? They can be the people who can support your program and get them excited, or the ones who can just bash your program. And so, again, hopefully by getting them closer will help with that. Football does have so many moving parts. I literally go and meet with every administrator that I have and just say, hey, there's a lot of moving parts to this. I know there is. Let's figure out how we can get people involved in this. And so you got fundraising, pregame meals, team dinners, chain gang, golf tournaments. You can see them all there. And maybe you got more, right? And I have literally lists and Excel spreadsheets of all of them and who's going to be in charge. But again, asking parents for their help and involvement, man, often causes those parents to care more, right? And really help get some buy-in there. You know, it is a fine line. I'm not going to tell you it's not with increasing those numbers, but also, you know, getting parents, are they too close? But what I have found is when done right and done consistently, you have literally parents who are sad about their child leaving the program, right? Because they care so much. And so, again, just figuring out more ways, maybe just adding one thing, right? You know, one thing, or maybe help for you, hopefully get something off your plate so you can do something more, right? Because again, if you're a head coach, there's just a lot of that stuff out there. And so maybe helping you with some of that. But ultimately, again, just trying to create the next level program, trying to get those parents involved to help with some of the infrastructure of your program is huge. All right. Kind of again, I said with most people do 10, we're going to do 11. So kind of your bonus one, your 11th step here is just being others focused. I think it's so huge for community service and support of other programs that you figure out that it's not all about football, right? You know, everyone will say that. That's what they're always going to say, that all the money goes there, you know, all the attention's on football. In some ways, maybe it is, I don't know, in your program. But I think it's so important when you get to your school, you have to figure out how to make sure that it's not all about football. So things that we've done is I've encouraged all my football players to lead cheering at other school sporting events. So, you know, we've literally practiced in the morning so we could go to a softball game after school. We will then practice a little early so we can go to a volleyball game. My football guys who are not playing basketball or not wrestling will go and be the biggest cheerleaders and the biggest fans at those events. That's huge. I think another thing is and you have to organize it now sometimes. I mean, sometimes your good players will do it, but at first you have to help organize that. We'll also organize where they get involved in other aspects of school. They'll have literacy nights where they'll go and read, right? They'll put the jersey on, go read at the lower level schools. They'll volunteer events. I volunteered at PTSO carnivals, community fairs, whatever. But again, just ways that they can volunteer and help out. There's so much evidence out there that supports the idea of community service. It's just huge. I think you promote a different message. You're promoting that it's bigger, right, than football. You know, we even give up a camp day during the summer, do a community cleanup where we break them up in groups and send them with a coach to different areas. We don't take any money, but we'll put out flyers and see if anyone has any odd jobs that our guys can do. That's huge as well. But again, any way that we can go out and promote, hey, we care about this community, we're grateful for all this community does for us, and to help our athletes understand that we're trying to make it bigger than football and bigger than themselves is going to be so important. So always trying to find more ideas, but there are some great things out there that you guys can do to really help support your program and help get more community involvement and get them to be others focused by focusing on that community service piece. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. You're from good to great, those 11 steps to create a next level program. Again, my contact info is down there. I'm always here to help, always willing to help any coaches that I can share any knowledge with. I definitely don't know everything, haven't mastered anything, still learning a ton. But again, these are just some nuggets that I've learned from my years of coaching and teaching, and hopefully you've gotten something from this. I highly encourage you to go back, look at those questions to ponder. I've just gotten great feedback from coaches that they've looked at those, that they've talked with their staff or their players, their leaders about it, and it's really helped just get the ball rolling of their program and go into that next level. Again, thank you to Chief Pigskin for allowing me the opportunity to do this video. Hope you got something out of it. Again, never more than a phone call away. Best of luck in your upcoming football season.